All right, 8 o'clock, I'll call the meeting in order. Is there a motion to approve the March 17th, 2025 minutes? Motion?
Well, one of us gotta do it, huh?
Yeah.
I guess I got a second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carries. Any public comment?
Yeah, I got one.
It,
Want me to stand here?
yeah, that's fine.
So for those who don't know me, Troy Liebert, worked for the highway department. Currently punch it out. So you don't have to worry about that. I'm here to talk about, a hot mix plant. I've been part of the highway department for 25 years. I've been a mechanic, laborer, operator, back to mechanic now. I've worked on multiple equipment. I was on the crusher for quite a few years. And then I kind of morphed over to the hot mix plant. I'm here to talk to promote the hot mix plant. That's my main agenda. I've having the tool, having that plant is crucial for the county. I mean, if you think about it, we're tasked with the job of taking care of our roads. The last time I looked, most of our roads were blacktop. I know there's been some talk, not using it this year because of this, that, or the other thing. And I've seen this tactic used before, like with the crusher. Okay, they bid out our main crushing to a competitor. That was just coming under our cost, and it made things look a little better on the sheet when it got all done at the end of the year. But when it come time to it, it made the crusher look a lot worse because there wasn't generating really any income. But that was by our choice. That was by the management's choice to not use it. And so then they went ahead and sold the crusher for pennies on the dollar. I think they got $100,000 for the whole thing. And the guy that bought it then turned one piece of it. There were several pieces to the crusher. Sold one piece and made all the money he paid for it, plus 20 grand, and he still had 3 more pieces to sell. It would have been way more beneficial for that machine to just be in our possession and think about it another day. But that's beyond the point. With the hot mix plant, I want to talk about what we use it for. Okay, and we not only use it for our roads, fixing, patching. We use it, we are competitors out there to keep Matthew at bay from keeping that price way up there because there's nobody else. And that benefits not only us, but it benefits the villages, the city, the state, any townships that need work. I mean, at least we're out there. Now, I've heard from villages, like from Glen Flora, I heard that they only have us do it because when there's a screw up, or if there's a screw up, at least we'll come back and do the maintenance and repair it. He says you'd never go to Matthew because they're like a mythical beast. They come in, do the job, and they're gone. If you want them back, no, this patchwork, this small work that's out there too, for like the cities, they're not going to come in and do that. So it has a lot of value, not only to the county, but to the townships and everything that we help out with. Every job we do, we work for the city, our paver, our hot mix, our trucks. That is a day that you're not paying, that the county is not paying for those man hours, those truck hours, that paver hours, the hot mix. That's all a load off your budget. And you got to look at it that way, that these jobs that we can do are beneficial to our budget and taking off of it. I apologize. Also, the timing. When you are just locked into Matthew, they tell you when you're paving. Doesn't look at any aspects of the weather, any aspects of the road condition. They just say, hey, this is your allotted lot of time. We're making the mix now. And so you're dealt with what they tell you. And when you have your own machine, well, then you can work with weather conditions, other stuff that is going to make the job better. And I've talked about the downfalls, like the timing, that if we get rid of the hot mix planter, we don't use it. The pricing, the quality is another thing. We have done jobs, I know with these LRIP programs and stuff that you do in instances have to buy your blacktop from them. But we've had quality issues. H was one of them. I know you live right up there off of that. The butter, you can vouch for this, that the segregation in the mix was terrible that day, and we actually had to start rejecting loads. But we still had a certain amount of material that was laid down and stuff. And quality control is one of the things that we have the power over, and we can make sure it's right. The hot mix plant, and then another thing is the hot mix plant is operational. We shut it down last year. It was making mix. We could fire it back up this year without any cost other than we're going to have to get an oil bid. We've never done that yet this year. To be able to make. I mean, we've invested. I know as of in the past, the most recent past, we have invested quite a bit of money in the redo of the hot mix plant, but it is operational. Okay, there's nothing, no big cost item to make mix. I know there's other excuses out there. Manpower, that's one of them. Well, we're hiring. There's guys, we're gonna get guys. We can do this. We can do it as a crew. I just here to promote it and to help you guys, at least from my point of view, to make a good decision on this. I'm gonna leave you with a little analogy here. I'm gonna wrap this up. But let's just say you all buy a pickup because you got, or a truck to do work, okay? And after you get this truck and you make it just the way you want it, you get a competitor that says, well, man, I can haul all your stuff for this amount of money, and it's a great deal. So you go through that whole year getting all your stuff hauled, your competitor, you still left with payment on that truck. That truck has not generated you any income whatsoever after that year's over with. And that's basically what we're looking at right here with the hot mix plant. We need to use it. We need to work it, and it's gonna work better. Everything's gonna look better. I hope that leave you guys with a different thought in your head. Feel free to ask any questions of me or anybody. We're open. I want the best for the county. I want the best for the department. Thank you for your time.
Any more public comment? Jim, I think you have something.
I'm here on the driveway permit.
Hey, you guys fine with him addressing that if we have questions on it?
Yes.
When that comes up?
Yeah.
Okay. Any more public comment? I mean, that none. And then we'll move on to the general business or discussion and possible motions, general business. Approval for driveway permit for county.
All right, Jim's here for Deborah Miller for access to the property. They got cabin back there and some hunt land, correct?
And, cropland.
And some
Parts, land in that.
allow farmers come back there and farm. It is just past Marshall Road to the west. Got a sliver of property that they have bought.
It is.
And want to have an access point to that. They used to be able to, on a verbal agreement, use the neighboring properties driveway, and they got old after it's sold that they're no longer allowed to use it. So the driveway conflicts with another, it's really close. So from driveway, if he went to the maximum of the 24-foot driveway, you would have within reason 12 to 14 foot. If they shrunk it down to just a standard 16, 18-foot driveway, you'd have 20-something foot between the two driveways. But this is the only access point for him to reach his property. Primarily only use it for the hunting and agricultural at times,
Yes.
correct?
It's it would be a low use driveway, but we are actually landlocked right now.
So that's what this driveway permit is
The
about.
conflict is the driveways are too close together.
Correct.
Easement for this has been in place for 30, 40 years. At the time, the driveway that's we're conflicting with, Brian Reynolds owned that years ago. And there is a driveway into that land, which is on the east side of the bridge. And he put a trailer house in up on the west side with a driveway in there. We went to put our easement in. That's when we found out that driveway wasn't supposed to be there in the first place. But at the time, Robert Miller didn't want no conflict, so we made an agreement with John Holmes, who now passed away and sold the place. And now as of April 1st, we can't use the access we have been using.
So the conflict is they're just too close together. You want to waive that?
Yeah, yep, I just need you guys to agree that we can have them have a limited use driveway there so they can access their property.
Make motion. Oh, I thought you seconded it, but I'll second
Any more questions on it? You're not all favor say aye.
it. Aye.
Carries. Give them the variance.
I just have to sign it.
Excuse me?
I'll sign it and we'll let you know what size culvert.
Okay,
Gene call you later on today.
sounds good. Thank you guys very much.
County short spans.
All right,
Or short span bridges, right?
correct. We got Willie here.
Good morning, can you hear me?
Yep.
So what would you like to know? I know Justin was talking, we were talking about load ratings, but do you want just a general overview of the whole program, or is there a specific topic?
So, let's inform them on load ratings and why we have to do them. At what certain, like the County G bridge down there, if we didn't post it, they would shut the road down. It has to be load rated there, that short span.
Yeah, and G and P, so them were the last two that we did, so just a little introduction. If you guys don't recall, I visited with you about a year ago. We're under contract for your county to do basically maintain your bridge program. And then a little over 2 years ago, the state came out with the short span program for the whole entire state. It was from the legislature that all structures greater than 6 feet and less than 20 feet were going to get inventoried and inspected. We did your county system as part of our contract, and then WCA, Town Association, and about 13 other groups are handling the town side for your county. In that process, we went out and Justin's crew did the inventory. They did a good job. We went out and did the inspection, and in the inspection process, we found 2 bridges in your inventory that are in tough shape. And when they're in tough shape, I'll bring you back to about two years ago when we closed County J on a crisp morning, and upset one of the county board members because he was on the other side trying to haul across it. We closed that bridge immediately one morning when Scott found it, that it had issues. Same thing with G and P. They're 2 very tired bridges with lots of defects in the steel on them. And the state hasn't come out yet with a way to do the load ratings, but AKA they may reimburse them. But even with the short span or even long span, because we posted some other bridges in your county last year also, we as the inspector go out, we look at it and we see problems with a bridge. And you have a handful of them. And then when we see the problem, there's some engineering practices and principles that come into play. There's some guidance from the WISDOT on, if you have this going on with a steel girder, for instance, you need to do a load rating, you need to do a structural review. It's pretty prescribed, but ultimately at the end, we have to make some judgment calls where when we see things in tough shape, we usually run a load rating, we do a structural review. So a structural review is we go out and we do the field work, we grind on the steel and we take a D meter and we see how much steel is remaining, for instance. Then very prescribed method from AASHTO that everybody in the country uses, the manual for bridge evaluation. My structural engineers go through and put everything into a whole bunch of formulas in a big long mathematical worksheet. And it kicks out a single tonnage for what we should post per Wisconsin DOT standards. We don't just post roads to post roads. Right now we have 2 in your county posted, waiting because Justin had indicated you guys had some questions about them. I had encouraged Justin as your county bridge program manager to post both of those bridges out on G&P at 10 tons until we do the math. And the reason we did that arbitrarily wasn't just to do it arbitrarily. It's all about public safety. In our process, we want to make sure that we are protecting the public, because I don't really want to be on Channel 13 News with you guys and Justin if we put a pulp truck through one of these bridges. So it's a public safety issue more than anything. It's a standard in the industry. WISDOT, Wisconsin actually has one of the better bridge programs in the nation, and they have a very prescribed process on the whole thing also. So again, we're just not posting bridges to post bridges. We do it for public safety, and we've posted quite a few in your county. Some of them on your county system when we took over the inspections were in pretty tough shape, and we got them all caught up last year. When the bridge program funding comes out, it's supposed to be rumored. It's coming out in May. Russ County is going to have quite a few bridges on there for your committee, your board, and Justin to consider on how you're going to get those in the program and taken care of in the future. That's kind of like a 5,000-foot view of that, but I can dial that in more if you have some specific questions. And yeah.
Get any questions for? These are some of the bridges that we're hoping we can get culverts put in, right?
Correct. So we had pre-planned to have the DNR come last week and assess these bridges, well, the waterways, not really the bridges, to see if they would allow us to put a culvert or multiple culverts in place of these bridges. Now, they had change of plans. The plan is to come, I think, next week, and then next meeting we can come together. So the question is you guys want to hang off on doing load ratings and keep them at 10 ton for now until the DNR gets back to us to see if we can just replace them with culverts. Now, it might be twin tubes, it might be a big single, or it could be a multi-plate culvert. I mean, it's going to be cheaper than a bridge.
Yeah, logically, the DNR is going to they don't like going multiple barrels anymore. And them are some, I think they were 16 and 18 foot spans. So they're going to be, those two structures should be a fairly significant size. If we actually do the load rating, we probably, I don't know, I can't pick the numbers out of the sky, but there's a good possibility that the tonnage would go up. Maybe not, but we have not done a physical calculation. We just threw 10 tons on them to be safe. We should do a physical calculation, because if somebody does put it through the bridge and we end up in a courtroom, we're going to have to explain why we did what we did. And it's not always the best answer to just say we arbitrarily picked a tonnage. 10 tons is pretty safe as long as the public is respecting it. But yeah, it may go up if we actually did the numbers. So
How much will it cost to have them run the numbers on them?
What is the cost on that, Willie?
We have a standard rate for all of our counties. We've been charging 4,000 for them each.
But we know we gotta get it replaced, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be, the lower is stuck on there no matter what. It's deficient, but, it depends on how much of a kickback we get from the DNR. This might string out another 2 months or 3 months, depending on what the DNR tells us.
Yeah, at that point, if you're only gonna be 2, 3 months, I would just recommend you keep your money and leave it at 10 tons. You know what I'm saying? But if it's gonna be a year from now, then it's, you know, again, trying to be generous to the users of the bridge. You know, every time we post a bridge, we have 10 loggers, and I understand they're pouring, but they always come and say we're taking food out of their kids' mouths because we posted the bridge to protect them. I understand that. So if you're going to go that much longer, we should probably consider it. But if you're going to be 2, 3 months, per state statute, the owner of the structure, which is you guys, have the ability to put any tonnage on there. And again, as the engineer, 10 tons is going to be safe as long as people are respecting it. You know, maybe ask your county sheriff to put a deputy down by one of them once in a while and just see if any pulp trucks are sneaking across it. And I'm not just picking on loggers. There's anything with multiple heavy axles.
Where are these at exactly?
So County G and Doughty Road, just south of Doughty there in County G.
Oh,
Right
they're
out of
right here
town.
south of town.
South of town, yep, that wasn't that, they were never inspected before, that's what he's talking about, the 6 to 20 program. They were never in any program, they've never had any rules or limitations on them until this last year. Or until they inspected them, we inventoried them. And then County P, just west of 27 by Stangers,
Okay,
that one's 10 ton as well.
one in that hollow out there farther.
No, just after the farmstead there, it's between, well, which road is that? Yeah, Parker Road. It's just east of Parker.
Must be really small. 'Cause
Yep,
I
yep. I think it was 18 foot, Willie. That one on County P is 18 foot.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. I didn't look at the inspection this morning. I could pull it up though if you really wanted to know.
Oh, it's okay.
So for now, just leave them at 10 ton and see what the DNR, if they're gonna let us, cause it's not like it's a high flow, right?
No, it's more or less runoff and the other one's near a swamp, so that's, I guess, the initial start, I think, is talk to DNR, see what they say, and then we can go
So
from.
none of them are like a creek or anything like that. It's just the level of the water from one side type
Correct.
to the other.
Correct.
No, another thing to think about is, if you do leave it at the 10 tons is, this state budget coming up, there's really serious discussion about creating a program for these under 20s to help possibly fund some replacement and some work on these under 20 programs. So in the next 2 or 3 months, that state budget passes, you'll find out too. And there could be a potential for some funding actually coming towards these, under 20 structures. That'll take a little bit of a while to, if it doesn't get approved in the state budget, to create the program and all the things that go with it, but it's something to think about too. If you're sinking all this, rather than jumping too fast, again, it may be worthwhile eventually if you have to, if you see something coming in the program, or it might fund a significant amount of these replacements. That could be something where you would delay again and get into that program, and then maybe do on a load rate at least. So I mean, it'll take a year to get that done or something like that, but at least keep that in mind, because there's again, very good chance that something might go in the state budget to help with these under 20 structures.
As of right now, we got no funding for either of these.
We do have culvert aid that we had budgeted for P. Because we were going to do a project on P, so we have 100,000 budgeted for culvert aid we could use for that, but
Do we need a motion on this to post them at 10 ton?
You guys can motion to keep them at 10 ton. That way it's motioned.
Is there a motion to keep them at 10 ton?
Well, I'm fine with that, but I'd like to have a game plan here going forward, because there's
We
gonna be a
won't
lot of,
know until next month.
we're gonna have to revisit this next month.
Yeah, this all depends on what the DNR tells us, if they're gonna allow us to put a multi-plate culvert or a big culvert in there, then we're gonna come back. They're supposed to meet, I think next week. were supposed to be last week, so I could have something ready, and they had canceled, so.
I hate to wait for the DNR and then put him another month behind if we decide we have to rate him, but I get it. I don't wanna
We need
spend
to do-
4,000 a bridge either for nothing. If we're gonna rip it out and they'd say, yeah, you can put a culvert in and we can put a culvert in
I
one.
don't think the bridge ought to be rated much over 20, 30 ton, would it?
No, you're not gonna have a full load. You know, it may go up, but 20 tons versus 10 tons, you can get a propane truck over it, or you know what I'm saying? It opens the door more for the customers that, are getting served by that road. But no, you're not, I wouldn't even say you'd get to 30 tons. You may get to 20, 25 at best, because they're in tough shape.
So they need to be split.
What got me a little concerned is 10 tons gonna be hard to get farm machinery over.
Yeah, you're gonna get a tractor over it, but just like when we took out Jay and that county board member was on the other side, he's a farmer, and he's like, he just looked at me and said, "You're killing me." And I said, "Well, we don't do it just to do it, And Scott got that replaced quite fast, actually. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, and it is a pain in the rump, that's for sure. But it's to protect the public. It isn't. It's not about convenience. It's just making sure we don't hurt anybody on a bad bridge. And it's bad mojo anyways. I mean, if we put somebody through one of these, everybody on this call is going to be standing together on the news trying to explain why we did what we did, and that's just what we also don't want to do. So again, I think you're good at 10 tons. I don't know who said the possible coming funding on the budget. That was kind of news to me. WISDOT has indicated that there's really there isn't they haven't been pushed yet by the legislature to indicate that there's future program coming. It wouldn't surprise me because statewide, we cover 17 counties as KBIS, and Rock County, for instance, they've got like 25 structures, and we're doing tons of work engineering for them. They're just horribly bad. You guys walked out with 2. Portage County's got a handful. But in the grand scheme, I think, and that we heard from the Towns Association that they are going to heavily push the legislature to do something with this program. That if somebody has a crystal ball, that's great. I don't know where that goes for you, but if it worked, it worked. But I don't know if you guys want to wait that long. You can wait as long as you want. From my perspective of the inspection program, as long as everybody's respecting it, them structures will limp themselves along for a while, as long as it's being respected. If that
You do
means
the
anything
rating?
to you.
If you do the rating on them, how long will that take?
Oh, about half a day. We can do them right away. My structural does them pretty fast. It would buy you some tonnage, and it gives us a good answer. Again, if something were to go bad on one of these, there's, everything is litigated nowadays. I mean, we'd have the answer on file that we did the engineering, and we have, we know exactly what's left of this bridge. It could come out worse. 10 tons was arbitrarily picked by me using some judgment. It could come out where we're down into the 3 tons, and if we hit 3 tons on the paper, it gets closed. That's just the rule of the law of the land. So it would, yeah, if you're gonna prolong it, we really should do the right thing and run the numbers and have that on file so that we have something to support our answer.
How long, Justin, you think even if the DNR approves it, it'd still take almost 6, 8 months?
I would like to imagine this fall would be something we could get it into with the project this summer.
They let us do culverts.
Correct.
Again, that one Scott did up on Jay, he turned that around in about 3 months, and the 3 months wasn't necessarily DNR. The DNR was very cooperative with him. It was the just getting the structure delivered. That's what took him so long on that, getting that one on J replaced, but he did it in
Was that
about
big
3
March?
months.
Yeah, as a multi-plate, and that's the other scenario. If the DNR gives us the go-ahead, we'll come next meeting and it takes them a while to make that structure, because it's all plated together, then we have to build it ourselves.
If the DNR ain't gonna let us do it, then we're gonna have to do the bridge reading.
They might
Yeah.
not give us an answer by then, is what he's saying though.
It all depends. We're in this real, they're actually going out to the site with one of our foremen. So,
It's got me a little concerned. It's just gonna be a lot of tractor traffic. I don't know if there's much for,
So one thing with the structural analysis, I mean, it's gonna, yeah, it costs a little bit of money, but it is gonna give you some assurances on the structure might, like Willie says, it might last multiple years yet, but you know, at least you get a good number. If you do the structural analysis, you have you know, again, it might lift that rating back up again some, and then you have a real good feel after that analysis is done, is the structure, is this something we're gonna have to rush or not? Are we good, you know, playing this out longer or not? And so it does give you more time, but getting that done is something that can actually, it'll lift those ratings back up again for
well,
you.
and then there's some basis behind her decision too.
Yep.
You
Guess
may
where I'm
get,
going with my
you
thought.
may get reimbursed for them load ratings. Out of that $12.5 million that the legislature gave the DOT, their plan is to load rate these structures, all the bridge type structures and any structures that are showing and the ratings of 3 on the inspection like we had that drove this conversation initially. You may, and I stress may, get reimbursed. They haven't said, but it wouldn't surprise me that the counties that are proactively taking care of their business now probably will see some money back. It may be not what we're charging, it may be more than what we're charging, but there's a possibility you may see some of that back, just so you're aware. I mean, it doesn't really help you today, but you may get some of your funding back.
I know it's a gamble doing it,
Gamble,
but
but
if
in
it's
the long
lower, it might put a little more
It's a gamble, but in the long run, if,
pep in DNR step if they know that we may have to.
Yeah, so it's $8,000 versus someone puts a truck through it, that's tens of
That's where
thousands,
I'm going.
millions of dollars, so.
where would this come out of budget then? Bridge program?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. If we're not using that culvert aid, for P, we could probably use that. Otherwise, most of our inspection costs do come out of county maintenance. So it'd be, those are hitting levy, but we're gonna, you know, turn this into a culvert replacement for culvert aid. I think I could charge it.
Maybe temporarily take it out of maintenance, and then if we complete the project, it could come out of later on, come out of the aid. If it turns into a project, then I don't know why it couldn't be incorporated into that, correct?
Your idea is that, go ahead with the reading?
I feel like I'm standing over an electric fence right now.
Yeah, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. To the gentleman that just made that last comment, it's an insurance policy for all of us that we actually have a number on paper that makes sense versus just 10 tons. And it's absolutely correct. Something happens to one of them and somebody wrecks a truck or gets injured. We'll all be spending a lot more time talking to each other versus just spending the money and getting it done.
I'm gonna make the motion that we do it, and it comes out of maintenance for the time being, and if the project's completed, we'll take it out of bridge aid.
Any more discussion on it? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Right,
Opposed? Carries. Then have it rated, whatever the rating he recommends.
we have no choice.
Right.
I mean, I guess we can go lower than what he recommends, but I mean, why not?
So when he gets it done, Justin can go get the bridge re-rated. It does change.
That's what we normally do, isn't it? Go off the rating?
Yeah, 100%. No, it's not normal for the owners to be changing those numbers. again, you could go lower. You might say, well, 5 tons, forget about it. Well, we're just gonna close it. But I would make that recommendation to Justin first, you know, as advisement to you all.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
I'm gonna jump off. Justin, let me know and we'll be talking, but I'll get moving on them.
All right, thank you, Willie.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
So-
Thanks. Approval for Fabic Cat to install thumb for rubber excavator.
All right, so last year we went and got that tired excavator at 190 GW deer. Replaced the old one. And we had contracted through McCoy to put a thumb and a bucket on it. That works really well for what our operations are. Initially, ordering was a month and they told us about a month turnaround time. They had it for 6 months. They had multiple issues. So then they tried refabricating and all this other stuff to make it work, and it's not gonna work for us. So I worked with Ashley and Rich and we sent it back down there. It's down there right now. They're supposed to be, they're pulling it off. They had ordered a pin to put it all back together. So what this is for a proposal from CAT to get the thumb we wanted on there, not the one we were told we were getting. The one would be a Wayne Roy. The cost of the John Deere one was $22,600. One for the CAT. The thumb with the install, about 16,900 with the proposal price. And then the bucket on this one is a little more, it's a little bigger bucket. It's more of a sturdier bucket, thicker steel, is $8,600. So a grand total of approximately 26,995. So like your approval for us to move forward and have CAT put this thumb on.
So what are we into it so far?
They're supposed to be taking it off and we're supposed to get our machine back. As it
So
stands
we're supposed to
right now.
get the 22, if I understand.
Paid nothing yet.
You haven't paid anything. So originally you figured it was gonna cost 22.
According to their purchase agreement, that's what they had listed was 22,600. We have not paid nothing for it yet.
Coming on an equipment fund. Motion for Cat to put in the bucket coming.
Yeah, I'll make it. We have to do
Any
the
more
work.
discussion on it? You're not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. Next, we have approval to run ad for crushing bids. Anything I see, Justin, don't we want 2026 on a lot of these?
6.
Yeah, like. The bid, to buy the washed sand, May 31st, that's only a month away.
Oh, yeah, that's my mistake. That was supposed to be December.
Oh, it's supposed to be December 31st,
Correct.
For the 7,500 ton?
Yes.
but don't we buy sand and that covers us? Covers for
Oh, yeah,
December,
yeah, 26. Excuse me. Yeah, you're right on that one.
that, it's good for the whole winter season, that's what we need to wash sand for.
I gotta change that to 26.
And the 3/8 minus is for December of this year then?
Correct.
You think the. You think September is, you go the end of September for completion date?
We can change it to the end of September.
No, it doesn't really gives them a summer.
You wanna change that to the 30th then?
Yeah. Is there a motion to approve the bids, the correction? Second,
I'll second it.
more discussion on it?
Now, what did we get? Those we have the discussion part. What did we get for last year and some of this stuff? We didn't do any of this stuff last year.
We did some gravel last year. We did, I think approximately, I think we did the 30,000. 30,000 and then option to buy screen sand that gives us the availability for them to give us some screen sand when they're doing the crushing.
Okay. And we completed that. when they did some, right?
Yes. We might, so when they're stripping and they're doing their gravel, they're gonna go through and sift the sand anyway, so we just have them do it right away instead of come back later.
Makes sense. Okay, I'm done.
All in favor of the run the ad, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Hot mix plant future use.
So I got some key points here to discuss. I ask for a motion just for discussion. Well, for the hot mix plant, if we continue using the LRIP, use our own plant for the blacktop on an LRIP job, we have to do a cost effectiveness finding, which is just some paperwork. It's got to be approved by the other commissioners in the region. The issue with that is we typically in the past have been doing gravel lifts on these roads. So our gravel lifts on our roads, for instance, last year, really a need for a gravel lift of 5 inches down there. Now, if you look at County M North, I could use a lift. It could use a heavy lift to accommodate the wetland. And we're working with the architect and all that stuff down there on their side for that bipartisan infrastructure. It's all that comes into play with how we operate here. So if we ain't putting gravel, if we don't need to put gravel on a road, correct me if I'm wrong, we're wasting county dollars. Just lifting a road and so we can use our asphalt. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be using our asphalt. The funding that we could get for our roadways would help us greatly for this to utilize this plant like we're supposed to. So what I'm getting at is talking with other counties that have other hot mix plants. What they do is they budget and they do a little more with their towns. Now, obviously, that's a scenario for us right now. What they do is they call Matthew Monarch and they do like we're going on W. You do your LRIP money through your project as hot mix purchase. Then whenever they're done with their mix, they fire up their plant and they hook up from where Monarch Matthew ended, and then you pull the rest on your own plant. Now that costs money to run their material. So then you're not putting the tonnage out of your plant. We're not putting the tonnage out of our plant like we need to make it viable. So that number, I know it's been talked about a little bit here and there, is approximately 30,000 tons to be sufficient, run your plant and not bring your costs down, essentially is what that does. So when we're seeing that 15,000 ton or less, our costs are high. So big thing is the amount of money. And I know that's a hard subject to talk about, but that would help us utilize our plant is so we could have Matthew buy the hot mix from them or Monarch, whichever. So if we got an entitlement money of 150,000, spend $300,000 with them worth of asphalt, and then we would run the rest with our own plant. That would be one way to do it. Red made the mention our plant is runnable right now. It is. It does require repairs as well. I mean, part of owning the plant is you have operating costs. If we idled the plant for the year, we do have staff shortages. The issue with the staff shortages is I counted the other day. On the outside crew, I think we have about 8 that have 10 years or more, being 20. And then you have 2 or 3 within the 7-9 range out of 20 employees. So you have 8, so that's 11. So you got 9 employees that have 3 or less years. So there's a lot of training going on. So that's something we have to keep in mind. If it does idle this year, the overhead's very low on the plant. We still have our payment on it. It is, we can't do nothing about it. Allows, some of the newer employees to kind of hook up a little better. Then you have more people on site instead of burst all over. If we don't use the plant, the benefit with this would be more on our equipment, radar equipment fund. We'd be at contractor's mercy. Scheduling would be the key to operating that. What made mention is if it rains for you get 2 weeks to pave, either wait for them to come back or you have to try and get in when you get in. price per ton is unknown. Go through a private contractor, we don't use our own plant. This would make LRIP funding, using our LRIP dollars easier instead of lifting a road with gravel. You know, other than the plant generating income, if we can hit our 30,000 number to allow the money to flow back through the highway department. Other than that, our equipment would be primarily on the job. And with running a plant, there's always overhead, there's always costs, and what we got, there are repairs that, whether now or in the future, they're gonna need to be done because of what we got. Wanted you guys to know, there's 3 ways I see about how things can work here.
You got any questions on it?
So did anybody ever get down to the brass tacks on our cost per ton? For they run 15,000 ton versus 30,000 ton.
I think last year, what they priced the material at, I include a lot of the costs that need to go into that fund, so it's kind of difficult to know an exact number. So I'll say, because there's labor costs and fringe benefits and other things that were not actually being put in that fund right now. So the number they set last year, which were $60,
60, yep.
$60 range, did not include actually some other costs that actually should be in that fund. So we couldn't tell an exact number. We'd have to go back and try to rerun some numbers and throw some of that back in. And again, it's hard to tell because the numbers weren't put in there as far as that actual cost, what it actually is costing to run. And it's always going to be somewhat dependent on how much, the tons. The more tons you run, you have so many fixed costs you're going to have out there too. Then you're going to have your operating costs, your labor costs, your other costs that go into it, your fuel and like that, based on how many tons you're running. And that's going to go into those costs as well. So again, when those numbers aren't correct right now, looking back, it's hard to get an exact number of, to get that break even point. So.
And as far as the fringe and the labor not being charged to it, these guys were doing exactly what they were told told them to do that. So they were just doing as they were told. Not charging it to the plant and charging it to the job.
That's not very helpful right now, is it? You're almost gonna have to run it a year again to know really where you're at, or get partway into the season to know really where you're at.
We're not gonna run it at all this year though, even for mixing up like patch stuff or anything.
I think what we talked about is based on the plant being close to this W job, because we had to get this under the chip and all that, we were gonna run everything over there. But I guess one thing we talked about is that'll give us a good project to see how this actually works. You guys haven't pulled much out of private plants before. We could pull a job like that. We'll by June, July, we'll have some pretty good numbers. I mean, once you fire the plant up, there is gonna be costs. Troy, everything he said, passionate about it. I agree with almost everything he said. Everybody wants to keep every piece of equipment. They want to keep a plant. There's a lot of identity here in the county and fully behind all that, again, everything he said makes sense. There is a big monopoly up here in this part of the state with hot mix. It is all across the state, so you want to try to keep the numbers as honest as you can, and to do that, and you got to have some places out there that have plants, and you guys have a lot of challenges that go beyond that, right now with your manpower, with your budgets, how much you're actually producing and all that. And, that's what you got to put the numbers on paper and see, is it actually costing you a lot of money to try to keep that identity, I think. And that's a big thing. So what we were talking about is, number one, do we idle the plant for this whole season, run stuff out of these plants, get some really good numbers on that side? Cause we haven't done that. We'll get some good numbers for you, and then do some comparisons. We can try to pull some of that cost together to get a good number on pulling some of that labor in. We just have to do some guesstimates and try to pull that in with what our costs actually were, looking back last year, the year before. The other option would be, late in the season, we're gonna have a project, the D project's gonna go later in the season. Well, months from now, do we decide we'll fire up and run that project out of that plant, our plant? We could. Again, once you fire it up though, again, you're playing with a little bit of fire there, because I think there may be underplaying a little bit. There is definitely costs out in that plant that are going to cost you money once you start firing that plant up again. Right now, we can have her shut down and cost almost nothing this whole season if we want to try to do it that way. So it's not like you have to make a decision necessarily right now. But I'd say within a couple of months, you got to decide whether do we fire up and try to run late season project out of there, or do we idle for one season and get some good numbers, do some comparisons, then look go forward, then you have a decision probably to make then for sure. Going forward, you say, hey, what are we doing here? And all I'll say from my standpoint is there's gotta be budget commitments. And I hear all this stuff about towns. I'm not seeing you guys doing much town work. So you say all this stuff about we're saving these towns and saving villages and saving cities around here. And you're only doing 13, 14, 15,000 tons out of your plant. You're not getting much work out there. So they're not giving you work. So that's, you gotta put that in your equation here again. So from my standpoint, I would say you gotta have a commitment that you're gonna get tonnage. I mean, you gotta, if you want to be successful here, it's gotta be either be out of your own budget for a lot of it, a little bit supplemental from the towns. But you also have to have the manpower right now. You don't have, we were sitting last week with the foreman trying to figure out how we could even get our project done, much less not even run the hot mix plant, to get enough guys and equipment and pavers and rollers and trucks. And we're almost short just doing that right now, based on manpower right now. We don't have hardly enough guys to fill out our trucks. There'll be trucks sitting even without doing the hot mix plant right now already. So it's just something for you guys to think about, but that's, I think this big decision probably will come in a few months, down the line here after this first project is run out of the plant. And we'll have some pretty good idea on how it's working, Justin. You guys will know, on the foreman, everybody will know how that's worked for you guys. We'll have good numbers there. I'm not saying that you're not gonna get a good number. It's brought up better number now than you might a year or two from now if you sell the plant. Obviously, there's gamemanship there too, and I understand all that. So I think you guys will have, some decisions to make coming up here, whether you wanna just keep it completely idle for the year, or whether you wanna fire it up and try to run a little bit this year, some too, and then do a little mix and see how it works out for you.
I'll come back next month with oil bid stuff so you guys can review that. That way, if we decide to run it later on or for.
Because we can get a bid for oil and we don't have to, we're not committed to it, right? We just have a price locked in.
Yep, I'll come back next month with a bid for oil.
Now, how would this affect our equipment fund bottom line, Sky? Is that gonna affect our equipment fund much if we don't do our own hot mix plant?
The blacktop plant fund is separate from the equipment fund,
Right.
so,
So it generates maybe a little bit of hauling out of our plant, or something like that, maybe if we're doing a job, but
we'll still be doing that hauling.
we're still gonna be doing the hauling, we're still gonna be doing the paving, is my understanding on those jobs and all that.
Yeah, so the equipment usage is gonna be the same. It's just we're over there on W.
It's not running
It's just not gonna run for that.
More questions on hot mix plant?
Where the townships right now gonna get their hot, where are they going to get their hot mix?
Monarch, they just get it from Monarch.
They can. And I agree. I mean, the county saves towns a lot of money by showing up. I've been at some of them. They show up and do the bid and they're always, I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there, $1.50 or whatever less. They know where our bid's gonna be at. It's like, and then at least a couple of towns I've been to, it's their job to go with the cheapest bid, so they take the cheapest bid.
And if it's an LRIP project, the county has to be 10% less than what the private contractor is anyways for an LRIP project.
Very
Next, we have the out of county travel.
There's some training in June, what would be June 2nd to June 4th for commissioner training. It's going to be room, meals, lodging. It costs $833 for spring training. Wisconsin Dells.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion on it? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. Next, you have the commissioner's report.
Well, we went over the bridges, on G and P, the short spans. We've got Haas set up next week for pulverizing the lower part of W there for the LRIP project. I have reached out to Monarch. They plan to have everything set up, running, depending on road bands, where the plant's at right now. Have it all planned to set up on May 5th. They're gonna be hopefully for us to start hauling out of there. And then following that will be, the end of May will be the milling on the northern part of that W project. And that will pave it, and we'll have a little bit of a break there. We'll catch up on some county maintenance, and then we'll do County D. And we'll have a discussion on if we're gonna run our plant or if we're gonna purchase that County D asphalt from Monarch. The distance from their plant to the job and our plant to the job is relatively close. That's a discussion for another day. We had Dustin, oh, that's in a different. As far as the rest, we got the excavator situation figured out. We had a culvert Thursday, County D, east of Sheldon, washing out underneath the road. The culvert had failed, so they went and did a temporary repair on it to keep the road open and traffic flowing. So they only did half the culvert because it was raining. The other half was sufficient enough to hold up, so they just patched it fast. And as Willie had stated about the bridge program, when that comes out, we have County B, County P by the Flambeau School, and then County H. I'll put in the program to see, and we'll have a discussion on which one's first. County B is at 15 ton. County P is at 30 ton. Each is at 25 ton with Jersey barriers along the guardrail.
Any questions for Commissioner's report? All right, next we have the consultant's report.
I'll make this kind of quick. Working on equipment stuff again. I know I showed you guys some stuff several months ago, and I know I told you guys we kind of got caught up in trying to get all this stuff rearranged with projects and all that work here in the last few months. But I think next month, a couple of different things I'll probably be bringing for you guys to take a look at. We're kind of going back through the equipment now, and we're trying to organize and trying to find some efficiencies we can do in equipment. I know I showed you guys we have a pretty big backlog, actually, a lot of old equipment. So we're trying to work on a plan right now, and I hope to present some stuff to you guys. We'll start kind of a process now of looking at that equipment again, what we could do to do a little bit of rearranging some stuff maybe, and then start that process of starting putting numbers on everything going forward here to try to get a little better idea, a little bit bigger picture actually of where we're trying to go with the equipment to try to start improving some of the equipment that is getting pretty old out there in the fleet. Same with personnel. I've been working with Justin for several months now, looking at personnel and maybe some tweaks just to try to make the department function a little differently. I wouldn't call it major shifts. I mean, you got a pretty small department, so just trying to take a little bit of that leadership in some of the positions there and doing a little tweaking on some job responsibilities. So I think got some meetings here coming up here, and I think hopefully by next month we'll be bringing something back just to talk about it here at the meeting here to see if we can make some adjustments and to try to make again just some tweaks actually in how we're trying to run the operation out there. And then same thing, I guess, with going forward with pavement management, project management. Again, that point again, probably won't be next month, but in the next few months, I want to bring some things back now that we're kind of got the stuff settled for this year as we go on the projects this year. Start looking at projects moving forward, and that will be eventually where, again, by late summer, fall. A lot depends on how we kind of select projects and how we try to group projects. So it will depend on whether we're on our own plant or whether you're looking at doing some privately. Because that really, you saw that kind of this year with how we try to adjust projects to make them something fit. We want to make sure we're not getting behind anymore on this chip funding and all that, and getting kind of caught in the situation we're in this year, where we're running against the wall here with sunset dates and losing funding. So we'll try to work on getting that straightened out here too. So those are the things kind of working out with Justin right now, and probably next month we'll have some things to bring back on probably personnel stuff and some equipment stuff to go over with you guys. So if you guys have any other questions at all.
We got any questions for him? No, thank you. Steve, do you report?
We had Dustin last week for some flagger training to get everybody caught up with projects starting here. Just a refresher, a recert for our flagger certification. It's fresh. Going on right away here.
Regarding that safety report, didn't we have some, I don't remember, maybe you did and I don't remember, but didn't we have some injuries a couple months ago or whatever?
Yeah.
I don't recall hearing about them. I'd like to hear about that. Unless it's HIPAA and we can't talk about it or something, I would like to hear about that and what actions we're taking to prevent that going forward.
Okay, yep, so We had an individual, he was out mowing with the tractor doing brush mowing, and he had a shield come and get kind of, I guess, bent, and he took a bar to straighten it out. Unfortunately, the bar where it was placed had come free, and he had hit himself with the bar in the head. And there were some other injury things that had happened, that he'll be out for a little while now. Went through some documentation, had him sign it off, make sure if he can't get it to call the shop to come and help. Make sure he puts the bar in a placement to where it's secure. So we went over that. It talked through, and we do have a form for that. The other individual was picking up his sander gate. Got it after he cleaned out, and then he had something else that happened into his elbow. As far as doing anything different with that, as long as everything's clean and everything's gets looped up, I think that might have just happened. I mean, I don't know. It's one of them things you're picking up.
Yeah, and I don't want you, don't take this from me. I don't want you to go too much detail in case there's a workman comp or something going on, but just a rough idea what happened and, and if there is anything you can do going forward to.
And then we're all aware, I think we've talked about it with the tree incident there on Highway.
I heard about it, but I'd rather hear what you can tell me about it.
So they were out doing state vegetation, and the crew had been cutting trees there all most of the winter. They've been cutting trees. Well, they notched a tree. There was communication made. Go ahead, drop the tree. I wasn't out there, but I was told that a big gust of wind come through. It was a pretty mild day up until that point, and then I think that was a weekend one of the storms had blown in. So there was some wind that come through, and it took the tree and it went towards the individual. I've talked to him. Usually try to we can talk to him, see how he's doing. He'll be out a little while yet. He's still got appointments and whatnot. But tree had actually struck him. He was wearing all his PPE. Obviously, trees are heavy, and he got hit by the tip of the tree. He was just thought he was in the clear zone. After talking to him and talking with the individuals, they thought he was in the clear zone. He was just on the tip of the clear zone. Yep. They've all had chainsaw training, and I don't know if it's ever been discussed with the chainsaw. I think it wouldn't be a bad idea. We do a lot of cutting. I think it wouldn't be a bad idea for every 2 years to at least do a class 1, if not class 2 refresher. I know it costs money, but I think every couple of years would be a good idea.
Is that being covered by Dustin?
He cannot do that's FISTA. He cannot do chainsaw training. He can actual cutting training. He can go through the PPE and all that other stuff, but he can't physically do the chainsaw training.
Is he at least giving them a reminder of the clearance they need for a tree when it's fallen?
Yeah, we talk over all that. Actually, just recently here, one of the trainings.
Okay.
He praised us on the PPE because if he didn't wear that wouldn't have been good. Typically, I mean, I would say anytime I see him, they're doing a good job, and pretty straightforward. He was wearing it if he wasn't wearing a helmet.
Okay. Well, when you hear about one like that, it kind of sounds, that's an easy one for someone to question. So, but yeah.
No other questions on state's report? Next, we have a financial report.
Okay, so the first report there in the packet is our maintenance. That would be as of March 31st. The time I ran this, I didn't have any costs in there yet. So there will be a little bit more. We did have some winter cleanup during April. Then you have the part of the equipment operations, expenses and revenue. And then for the budget transfers, I included January and February because I closed both those months since the last meeting. You can see what happened in both months instead of just skipping January.
Any questions on the financial report?
Hold on, I'm not done yet.
Well, you quit talking.
I know, I was going through the.
Giving us a chance to absorb.
Yes. The estimated financials is what's next, with the highway billings as of March. You know, the road construction, not much new there. Blacktop plant, haven't seen any repair costs yet through March. But what we have seen in that, blacktop plant fund balance, you know, it did take a little bit of a dive because we did have our, bond payment that came through. Usually does sometime in January through March. The other cost we will see even running it is, utilities. And the equipment fund balance, we had there through February, so that really didn't change much from the end of the year closing. And then accounts receivable. Nothing too concerning going on there. Questions?
I got any questions for it? Jim's still reading.
I'm still reading. But
Committee announcement. The only one question I got for you, Justin, is did you do any researching on what the state wanted us to do with Highway 73? Figure out anything with that?
Yeah, they want us to rent or hire somebody that's spray patches. They want us to do.
And I think I had talked to you, we only had what, $70,000 budgeted for that? Is what the state had budgeted?
Yeah, I think that's correct. I have to eat again, but I thought it was about
I
70.
really ain't gonna do that much, cause that spray patch is pretty expensive to do.
Yeah, it takes time. It's very
Yeah.
time consuming because it's well, machine's gotta heat up, then you gotta spray it, you put your rock in it, all that stuff, so.
Do we have material for that, or would we have to buy all that material? Well, the tar we'd have to buy on the liquid stuff, but do we have rock crush for the,
I'd have to ask what size rock, if it's just pea rock or if they got chips that they're using. I'm not sure exactly what material they're using.
you think you'll have a answer for it next month, so we put on the agenda to approve either renting a machine or?
Yeah, well, I'll look into it and I'll look into it. I'll see if I can come up with, I know a lot of these counties, we have done, checking with counties, they don't wanna rent it out. They're too busy with it. And supposedly don't make enough money for them to go do jobs elsewhere. What we've been getting told, so.
Just for us to set up machine, I think we had talked about one of the machines over a year ago. Just for us to get set up, we would have over $500,000.
Cause you gotta buy the bulk tank for the tack and then you gotta have the machine, which I think the machine's 150. Quote me on that ballpark. You gotta have your bulk tank, you gotta have the heaters, all that stuff with it.
It's actually, I seen them, they brought a machine up when I was here when they tried it out. It takes a lot of guys just to run the machine between flagging and you're looking at an 8-person crew just to go do that.
Machine was.
It sprays the tar and rock together, so it fills the potholes and
Oh, gotcha.
the spray patcher. We'll put that on next month's agenda. Yeah, because that road's getting pretty bad. Maybe 73.
oh, yeah.
But they don't have a lot. The next month's agenda. Next, we have the invoices.
This payment on the blacktop plant, is that like a? I can't remember, is that like a quarterly thing or
No, it's annual.
this is once a year?
Yeah, the interest might be, split up, into two different payments. But the principal payment is,
Or we got how many years we got on that? Do you remember?
um, I don't know.
Well, but it was originally like 2.1, I think, or something. I saw somewhere or a number.
The bond was, I think, 1.5.
That's where we ended up for the bond.
Yeah, that's what the bond amount was 1.5. I wanna say it was like 10 or 15, 10 year, I think a 10-year.
About right,
So
100,000.
probably at least halfway, oh. Well, yeah,
After we bonded it,
about halfway through that.
snowmobile and it doesn't snow.
At least it was probably, hopefully bonded at a cheaper interest rate than what it is now.
That's true.
Did you get a chance to go over the bills?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You approved?
Oh, you think we should pay him?
I probably already paid, so.
Oh, you think we should approve the payment?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I could do that.
More discussion on the bills? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Right.
Opposed? Meeting date. Of May.
That works.
Your motion to adjourn? Alex, I'll second it. We're adjourned.